Hey, good morning. I wanted to just take a quick second. I'm in my home office right now, and I thought I would answer a question that I've had a few times actually, and it's really around. Well, I'll tell you what the question is. I'm a beginner to commercial real estate. I live in a hot market, and I can't find any deals that make sense. So the question is kind of where do I find them? How do I source good deals in kind of a crowded marketplace? And I know that this is generally the case where you've got a market where lots of money is chasing a few deals. And there's three different choices I think that a person has in that type of a scenario. Number one, you can find off market deals. And I'll talk about why a seller would still consider doing selling their property in an off market situation, even in a very frothy market where there's lots of money chasing a few deals. Number two, you can look at different asset classes. That would probably be one of the first things that I would do. And number three, if you've got credibility in the marketplace and you know who the agents are and who the players are, and if the players know who you are, if you can close quick with cash, there's always going to be a motivated vendor that would look at a quick closing and deal certainty and would take a lower price. So just to kind of circle back to the first comment of finding an off-market deal. So off-market means it's not listed with a real estate agent. And so you might think to yourself, why would a seller consider selling off-market if they could get a higher price if they were to list it and then hopefully get bids, meaning multiple buyers chasing one property. And I used to kind of question that myself until you start to realize sellers have different motivations and it's not always money. Obviously, money is a key consideration, but there's other factors that come into that. And so I'll tell you kind of three reasons why a seller would consider selling off market versus listing the property. Number one, they can avoid the real estate fees. And while it may not seem like a lot, some sellers just have a real aversion to paying real estate fees. If you're paying kind of 1 to 3%, maybe even 5% on smaller deals, that adds up. And some sellers, especially sellers that have owned a property for a long time, they really don't like to have to pay out an agent a couple $100,000 to sell their property. Now, I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong. I'm just talking about my experience. Number two, it can be less hassle. And when I say less hassle, what I mean by that is, so I've got an apartment building in Edmonton, and I have no intentions of selling it. However, if an agent brings me the right number, I would look at it and consider it. And what you'll find is some of the reasons I don't want to list it formally with an agent, let's just assume that I was considering selling it. A few of the issues with that are, number one, it disrupts the tenants. Number two, it puts fear in the property manager. Number three, it takes a tremendous amount of energy to put together the financial statements and the expenses. And I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into properly listing an asset. And in an off-market situation, the purchaser understands that he's not going to get all those same reports and information. And so from the seller's perspective, it's a lot easier. It's simpler. And for that, they understand that they may take a little bit smaller price. However, there's an argument in an off-market deal that a buyer is going to put their best foot forward, if you will, because they know that they're not competing. And if they come in too low, then there's the game of, well, now the seller can, this is getting kind of advanced, but the seller can basically take that offer and shop it to the market. And to think otherwise is, especially in commercial real estate, is a bit naive. And I guess the third point of why a seller would consider selling off market is there's no commitment. They can be very indifferent. And as a seller, what you notice, especially like the sophisticated guys, sometimes they'll just test the market. Yeah, bring me an offer. I'll look at it. Yeah, I really want to sell. And so I'm not suggesting that off-market deals is the answer in every situation. I'm just suggesting that there are real reasons for selling off market. And if you're a buyer in a very hot market, that would be kind of a place to start looking. And like I said, you can always look at different asset classes. So this particular gentleman that had asked the question, he's looking at apartment buildings in a hot market in BC. And I said, well, if apartments are really crowded and there's lots of money chasing those few deals, then maybe you could look at office, industrial, retail. There's always different opportunities. And so I think having kind of multiple tools or the ability to do different assets gives you opportunities to invest through all different market cycles and timing. So that's really what I wanted to get into. I've actually, I was going to go on a different tangent, but I think that this is long enough for these kind of daily Facebook Lives. So if you've got any questions, as always, put them below. If you have any questions as it relates to finding properties or checklists, whatever, you can, and actually, I'm going to make this, if you don't want to put the question below, my brother actually suggested this to me yesterday. You can private message me and I will answer the question and I will keep you anonymous, because I didn't realize, but there could be the case where someone doesn't necessarily want to, put it out there in public, the question, because they may not, they may just feel foolish or silly asking the question. And so I understand that. And so what you could do is just send me a direct message or a private message or something to that effect, and I'd be happy to answer those questions. And like I said, I'll keep you anonymous, but I'd still like to make sure that the content that I'm putting out there and the questions that people are asking, I'm addressing them. And so I just want to kind of throw that out there. So that's it for today. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.